Let's get straight to the point. All 26 logs on Breezy Isle have been found. Among them, there are 9 logs written by the surveyors. There are 17 records left by the Smale Institute. The research goal was to use the space-time oscillation device to influence the crustal movement of the Grand Sea. They were attempting to create a new continent in the Grand Sea. The laboratory was founded in the year 2662 AD. It was founded based on the discovery of Leda, the appearance of the Marsoid, or made it possible for individuals to conduct omnium experiments. Subsequently, Smale joined forces with Leda to establish the Smale Laboratory. They also built simple buildings on Breezy Isle. They disguised it as a human residential area. The current personnel include the leader Smale, the laboratory director, Mr. Zer, the old employee, Tour, the potential newcomer, Leda, Uzel, who is full of a sense of justice, Noah, an unlucky dog, who is responsible for refining the omnium, is also present, Nala, the laboratory medical staff, is also present, and the mysterious 4 character member is also present. A total of 8 people. From the description of the information, it is possible that these 8 people are the only ones in the entire laboratory, because omnium experiments are prohibited. Moreover, they are going to cause crustal movement. Such changes will either cause earthquakes or tsunamis. It's impossible to recruit on a large scale. Also, don't be fooled by the fact that Breezy Isle is a large place. There are many buildings under construction. In fact, the area that can be moved around is very limited. Arriving at Breezy Isle for the first time, some people may criticize the modeling here as simply terrible. The floors are not only densely packed, but also have very low ceilings. Even the light cannot shine into the rooms. What's even more ridiculous is that the office chairs here have fluorescent wheels. It makes people wonder if the production team was under some kind of stress when making the models. But in fact, all of this was done intentionally. The reason why the buildings on Breezy Isle were built like this is because they were not meant for people to live in. Instead, they were constructed using the fastest and most minimalist materials possible. As a comparison, I conducted an archaeological survey in other areas of the planet Ida. Whether it was the abandoned Ecological Research Institute in the swamp, or the abandoned buildings beneath the Asperia Fantasy Tower, or the unfinished buildings in the 3rd city of Vera. They are all different from the buildings here. It can be clearly seen that the designs of these 3 places were intended for residential purposes. Not only are the layouts reasonable, but the ceiling heights are also suitable for human activities. The walls around them also won't leak wind. However, looking at the buildings here on Windchime Island, it seems that they are only made to look like buildings. There are even gaps between the walls and ceilings. The building materials are also very cheap. Just by looking at the building models, you can tell that the production team put a lot of effort into them. They are very consistent with the same descriptions in the source material. This is mainly used for camouflage. So at night, there may not even be any lights. That's also why some floors have information. The reason why some floors don't have information is because those buildings are completely abandoned and nobody goes there. The reason why the chairs are fluorescent is also to allow work to be carried out in the dark. Looking at it this way, does it seem more and more like a black workshop? Now you understand why there are no doors on the buildings here, right? Alright, now that we've figured these out. Next, let's interpret these 26 journals in the correct order of recording. First is the Explorer's Journal. October 20th, 2667 AD. Explorer number 17 discovered this place for the first time. This coincides with the time recorded in the Meroria archives. It is the time when the 2nd city was discovered. Do you remember Xiao Feng's speculation about the Grand Sea Tunnel? The Grand Sea Tunnel was not built by Hykros alone. Instead, it was a transformation of the original underground river. After the cataclysm, due to the pressure of population and resources, the Meroria dispatched a large number of explorers. They searched for a place to settle in the post-apocalyptic world. Among them, they discovered the existence of an underground river beneath the miasmic swamp. Following the underground river, they arrived at the Mire Sea. These were also the first group of explorers to arrive there. Explorer number 18 arrived to provide support 5 days later, and discovered a large amount of unconventional equipment. They began to notice the unusual nature of Breezy Isle. By December, they reached the peak of exploration. More explorers continued to send messages. However, there was a time difference between them. From October 25th to December 2nd. What happened during this period of more than a month? This also caused a lot of speculation among people. Some people believed that the first arriving explorers had stolen the research data of this place and submitted it to Hykros. They took the research results as their own. This is what led to waterproof force field. However, this speculation is not tenable. Explorer number 17 was the one who discovered this place. Suppose he submitted the data. Now he is already an outstanding researcher. At least, he needs to assist in the research and development of waterproof force field. But in the subsequent logs, his logs that he left behind were still found. He appeared again on Breezy Isle on December 8th. And he noticed the unusual omnium radiation here. So it's unlikely that he stole the data. Is it possible that it was stolen by the 18th? He came here 5 days before the 18th. If the data could be found by the 18th, it doesn't make sense for him, the 17th, not to notice it. So here we have the second speculation. The exploration in October was only a rough one. It was like playing Minesweeper, leaving marks in suspicious areas, waiting for further exploration, waiting for the exploration team to finish their investigation, then focusing on exploring the suspicious areas. The arrival of the 17th and 18th was just the first exploration. After discovering the suspiciousness of Breezy Isle, they marked it and then left. The more comprehensive investigation will be carried out in December, judging from the records of the 11th. Although most of the information is missing, there is still a part that has been preserved from his narrative. Now the waterproof force field has been studied, but it consumes a huge amount of energy. From the discovery of Breezy Isle on the 17th to the deployment of the waterproof force field, this period of time is too short. This is also why I speculate that the waterproof force field was developed by Hykros. It's quite a coincidence. The most important achievement of the Smale Laboratory. It's not just about separating water. Rather, it's that only a small amount of omnium is needed to maintain the waterproof force field for a long time. The current research challenge is energy, and the obtained data just happens to solve the energy problem. This makes the establishment of INARS possible. For reference, the records in the archives happen to have been activated since the year 2668. The construction of INARS. Coincidentally, it coincides with the time to solve the problem with the waterproof force field. The remaining logs are mostly normal records. Interested viewers can pause and take a look. What we are about to introduce is the highlight of this story. The crazy experiments at the Smale Laboratory. Don't be fooled by the fact that there are only 17 pieces of information here. There are, however, two possible endings. One is about the savior director, Mr. Zur, saving the ocean. The other is about the leader Smail's self-redemption. Although most of the information in this data is garbled, the number of time and the progress of the experiment will not be reversed. Based on this, Xiaofeng arranged these 17 logs in chronological order. Rearranged them again. Next, let's take a look at the records according to the logs. What exactly happened on Breezy Isle? The cause of the incident was that Lita discovered this sea area. She also discovered the omnium or Marsoid ore. Pay attention to the time in the lower right corner. It's the year 2662 AD. This is the earliest log on record, although the month and day are garbled. But from the digits, it can be inferred that the month is after October. The next log is from the leader, Smail. He has a great dream. That is to create a continent from the birthplace of the islands. Pay attention to the time in the lower right corner. The number of digits in the date is also the same as that of Lita's. After that, there is a grand vision from the boss. Smail gathered everyone to start the experimental research. Next is the appearance of Chief Director Mr. Zur. Oscar uses the Marsoid ore through his connections, attracted Director Mr. Zur to participate in the research together. Why did Mr. Zur appear? His diary has a characteristic. Every sentence is related to Oscar. If it weren't for the fact that they are both men, I would have thought they were a couple. Then comes the joining of the old employee tour. You can tell he really enjoys working here. Pay attention to the time in the lower right corner. The month and the date has become odd. This indicates that the current time has reached the year 2663 AD. Why not 2662 AD? This is related to the number of the log. Interested viewers can go back and check the number of Lita's log. The next log is still left by Tour. It introduces Smail's tragic life experience. It's no wonder that he resists living in the desert so much, given that his parents died in a sandstorm. Their experimental content also appears in the log. They caused intense plate movement using a space-time oscillator in the experiment. As a result, a new continent emerged. Here I have a question. The space-time oscillation device was made by the Smail laboratory itself. Or did they purchase it directly? This will determine who developed the waterproof force field. With the space-time oscillation device, it is not difficult to discover its ability to separate water. Personally, I am inclined to think that this machine was developed by Hycros. Smail only obtained one through channels. There are several reasons for this. The first reason is that Hycros is very strong. Hycros has assembled top-notch researchers. It is one of the top research organizations in the world. Research on time and space has never stopped either. Even the reboot of the Omnium is for the purpose of studying the characteristics of time and space. The second reason is that Smail Laboratory is very weak. Don't be fooled by the experiments on Breezy Isle, they may seem impressive. But in reality, they have neither the money nor the people. The residential area is built with simple materials. There are only a few people in the personnel. From the description in the log. Although the researchers here have certain scientific research capabilities, but none of them can be considered top-notch. It seems more like a paranoia towards discovering the unknown. The miracles created as a result, rather than relying on their own abilities. It's more like they have placed their hopes on the Marsoid ore. The third reason is the content of the experiment. Noah is engaged in omnium extraction work. It can be seen that they are only using the omnium of the Marsoid ore. Activate the space-time oscillator, attempting to trigger plate movement. From the experimental results, apart from causing a large amount of radiation pollution, the plates did not move at all. The failure of this experiment was inevitable. It was just an accidental discovery that very little omnium can be used to maintain a water barrier. This can be considered the biggest gain from the experiment. The following log is an argument between Tour and Lita. It can also be seen that the experimenters here are not as capable as imagined. Next is the intervention from Mr. Zur. But it was rejected by Smail. Oscar decided to report the experiment. Breezy Isle is isolated from the world. There are communication devices only at the southeast corner. I've been searching here for a long time, but I didn't find any devices. Also, the report failed this time. Not only that, finding out that Osler was going to report himself. This made Smail furious and ashamed. There will be consequences for Osler's actions. I don't think this journal entry belongs here. But the timestamp in the lower right corner indicates that it is still an odd-numbered month. After this point, everything that happens is after October. After meeting with Director Mr. Zur, he did not immediately report the incident. Instead, he decided to seek help from Lita. The timeline here is very clear. After November of the year 2663 AD, it also led to a confession from Mr. Zur. He had already discovered that the space-time oscillator was a complete lie. But he couldn't stop now. The Omnium Experiment Prohibition Act has already been introduced. If they don't produce results, they can only wait to be punished. The order of this diary entry is just after Lita came to find Mr. Zur. Here, the name of the old Federation, the Norn Federal Government, appears for the first time. Unfortunately, they won't be able to bounce around for many more days. From the completion of the Tower of Fantasy's construction. For several years, besides Hycros working hard on researching Omnium, there were also many organizations and individuals in the public conducting various Omnium research. This is mentioned in the Chrono series of games. Interested friends can go take a look. The aberrations have become uncontrollable. That's why the Omnium experimentation ban was introduced. Unfortunately, it was still too late. Mr. Zur fell into deep self-blame. Unable to sleep at night, he is also worried about Uzel. He has always felt that he was the one who caused Uzel's death. This guilt prompted him to later stop everything. The terrible thing still happened. Due to long-term operation of the Omnium refining device, Noah's body began to show the side effects of the Omnium. The information here is very explosive. Do you remember the Marsoid ore in the sea under Inars? At first, I thought this kind of ore would finally cleanse the Omnium. But after seeing Smail's research results, the Marsoid ore still has the side effects of the Omnium. It can still cause aberrations just like before. It's just that the process takes much longer than the Omnium exposure from the Mara comet. It depends on how the Tower of Fantasy plans to handle this. Now, the people of Vera have undergone technological improvements from the first executive officer. This has enhanced the human body's resistance to the Omnium. So, will using Marsoid ore still cause aberrations or not? Now it has become an unknown variable. Mysterious four-character personnel appeared in the next log. It can be seen that he is also a member of the laboratory. And he has a hot-tempered personality. He has a deep relationship with Uzel. He stopped Smail's plan but failed to prevent the time-space oscillator from going out of control. Important results were discovered when starting the time-space oscillator. Only a small amount of omnium is needed to power the waterproof force field for a long time. This log shows a disagreement. Is this left by Mr. Zur or Smail? The disagreement here also created two different endings. Director Mr. Zur feels deeply guilty towards both Lida and Ossiel. And Smail is not an irredeemable person either. His tragic background made him somewhat stubborn. But he still cherishes his dreams. No matter the cost, it is worth it as long as a new continent is born. But when everything shatters and turns into a mirage, will Smail also turn back to the shore when this happens? The next entry still carries some differences. There is no problem whether it is Smail or Mr. Zur. But it feels like this one is more about Smail. Will Uzel hate Mr. Zur? Mr. Zur just didn't participate in Uzel's report and informed about the location of the communication device. If it really is hate, then it means that the information spoken by Mr. Zur is false. So that's why Uzel was caught. So that's why I couldn't find the communication device. Mr. Zur betrayed Uzel. That's why he hates him. It would also make sense if it was Smail. Because Smail turned Uzel into an aberrated monster. Noah, who controlled the refining device, has fallen. They need a new refiner. Uzel, who intended to report the incident, became the best substitute. Similarly, he also aberrated. Pay attention to the time of this log. The month is singular. We have now arrived at January of the year 2664 AD. There are about 10 days left until the cataclysm. The person in the log has turned off the space-time oscillator. The next log is still in a state of divergence. But it leans more towards Smail. Because the long-awaited homeland is what Smail pursues. He is unforgivable for conducting such experiments. In comparison, Mr. Zur is just a subordinate of Smail. How much more sin is there? It's not enough to go to hell. Finally, we have come to the end. The cataclysm happened. Everything turned into dust. The secret of Breezy Isle was covered up, waiting for the discovery by future generations. But it should be noted that the ending here leaves behind the mysterious four-character personnel. All the others have already undergone aberration. Only the four-character personnel remained until the end. He witnessed the occurrence of the Great Catastrophe. But his fate has also been predetermined. The space-time oscillator went out of control and his protective suit was damaged. The probability of his survival is extremely low. And that's the entire story of the Smail laboratory from before the Great Catastrophe. Doesn't it feel like this story is wonderful? Piecing together fragments to uncover hidden secrets. This is the essence of soulful storytelling. However, if one has too little information, they may find it all rather confusing. This concludes this episode. Follow Xiaofeng. Experience the unique Tower of Fantasy with us.